Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're really digging into something big. A modern spiritual blueprint that promises, well, nothing less than the end of suffering.
Yeah, it's quite a claim.
We've gathered a whole stack of sources on this, covering everything from, the ego to how we perceive time. Our mission today is to kind of synthesize all this, make it practical, something you can actually use right now.
It is maybe one of the most ambitious things we've tackled, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Because the author isn't just offering ideas, they're pointing to a transformation based on, immediate awareness.
Right.
We're exploring this core message that all the conflict, the anxiety, the general unhappiness we experience, it's not necessary. It's not just part of life. It's more like a symptom.
A symptom of misunderstanding who we really are.
Exactly. A fundamental misunderstanding.
And what's so compelling, I find, is that this whole framework, this whole teaching, it didn't come from years of quiet study, did it? It exploded out of a personal crisis.
A really intense one, yeah. The author talks about being just gripped by this thought over and over. I cannot live with myself any longer. Just unbearable agony in that thought.
Sounds like rock bottom, that feeling of being trapped inside your own head.
Totally.
Yeah.
But that phrase, which probably resonates with a lot of people in quieter moments, it triggered something amazing. A moment of clarity.
How so?
He suddenly saw how absurd the statement was. If I cannot live with myself, then who is the I and who is the self? There must be two.
Ah, the observer and the observed.
Right. He asked, am I one or two? And just asking that, stepping back from the thought itself.
The thinking stopped.
Thinking just stopped. Dead silence. Which apparently was terrifying at first.
I can imagine, like the background noise of your life just switching off.
Yeah, he described being pulled into this vortex of energy. Slow at first, then faster and faster. Intense fear, body shaking.
Wow.
But then amidst all that fear, this inner voice, or maybe a feeling in his chest, said, resist nothing.
Resist nothing.
And he followed it. He just let go, fell into this void, lost all sense of who he was, his history, everything.
And then, what happened when he came back?
Well, hours later, he woke up.
Mm-hmm.
And everything was different, radically different. He heard a bird chirping outside.
Okay.
But it wasn't just a bird. He heard it with such clarity, such intensity.
Mm-hmm.
He said it was like hearing the sound of a precious diamond.
Wow. So perception itself shifted.
Completely. Everything felt new, pristine, like it was just born. He looked at the dawn light coming through the curtains.
Yeah.
He didn't just see light, he felt it, experienced it as love itself, that texture. And he apparently spent the next few years just living in this state of, profound, uncaused joy.
So after that sort of dissolution and rebirth, what was left? What's the core takeaway?
What was left was the realization of his true nature. That underlying I am, pure consciousness, before any labels, before any thoughts, before identifying with anything.
The ground of being, essentially.
That's it. And that's the bedrock of the whole teaching. And the mission for you, listening, is right there. The author's point is, this isn't something you need to get. You have it already.
You just can't feel it because your mind is making too much noise.
Exactly. Too much static.
That's a huge distinction, isn't it? We're not striving for some future enlightenment. We're clearing away the noise that's obscuring what's already present.
Right. And the book itself, the source material, uses this really effective Q&A format. It tackles things on two levels at once.
Okay, what are those levels?
Well, first, it's diagnostic. It points out all the ways we're unconscious, the patterns of dysfunction, the false things we mistake for me, so we can see them and stop feeding them energy.
Recognizing the false.
And the second level is transformative. It shows the shift, the enlightened state that's actually available right now, instantly, regardless of your circumstances.
Okay, before we dive into the mind itself, maybe we should quickly touch on words. We're going to use terms like mind, consciousness, being, maybe even God.
Yeah, that's important. These words, they're just pointers, stepping stones.
Not the destination itself.
Exactly. We shouldn't get hung up on the words, comparing them rigidly to, say, other religious ideas or philosophies. It's like the word water. It won't quench your thirst. The reality it points to does.
Got it. So use the words loosely. Focus on the experience they're pointing towards.
Precisely.
Okay. Let's unpack the first big principle then. And this one is maybe the hardest to swallow for most people. You are not your mind.
Because for almost everyone, our identity is completely wrapped up in that constant stream of thoughts, right? The inner commentary, the debate.
Or that voice in the head.
That voice. And that compulsive thinking, that identification, is what the sources call the most basic error, especially in Western thought. Think Descartes. I think, therefore I am.
Right. Equating thinking with existing. Identity equals thoughts.
And it's a disaster, according to this view, because it separates thinking from being. It makes the I am dependent on the I think.
So if I stop thinking for a moment, am I still here? Am I still conscious?
Absolutely. The author's experience shows that. The core awareness, the I am, is there before the thoughts arise. It's the space in which thoughts happen.
Okay, so what happens to someone who is compulsively identified with their mind? What are the results?
The big one is feeling separate, cut off. The mind analyzes, judges, splits everything into good, bad, the other. So the compulsive thinker lives in this world of constant problems and conflict because the mind creates that conflict internally.
Whereas enlightenment, in this view, is more about wholeness.
Exactly. At one minute, peace arises simply because that internal war, that resistance created by thought, has stopped.
It really does sound like an addiction, the thinking process itself.
Oh, it's defined precisely as an addiction. Think about it. The hallmark is feeling like you don't have a choice. The thoughts just run. They feel stronger than you.
And they give a false sense of something.
A false sense of pleasure, maybe.
Yeah.
Like, I'm right about this, or I figured this out, but it always turns to pain when that mental position gets challenged. You identify with the whole package, your history, your opinions, your self-image.
And the fear is, if I stop thinking, I vanish.
That's the underlying fear, yeah. That the me constructed by thought will just dissolve, which leads us straight to the ego.
The phantom self.
That's a good way to put it. The ego isn't a thing, it's a process. A false sense of self built purely from unconscious identification with the mind. Personal stories, cultural conditioning, all glued together by thought.
And the moment you become aware of the thinking process,
That ego starts to lose its grip because its fuel is unconsciousness.
how does the ego keep itself going then? How does it survive if it's just this phantom?
Its main trick is ignoring the present moment. It hates the now
Why?
because the ego lives in time, psychological time. Only the past and the future matter to it.
Okay, explain that. How does it use the past?
It keeps the past alive constantly, replaying memories, nursing grievances, defining itself by what happened then. Because without your personal history, your story, who is the ego, that story is its identity.
And the future?
The future is where salvation always lies for the ego. One day, when I get the promotion, when I meet the right person, when I retire, then I'll be happy. Then I'll be peaceful.
So the present moment just becomes a stepping stone, something to get through.
Exactly. It strips the now of any value in itself. It's just a means to a future end that never actually arrives. Because when the future gets here, the ego is already projecting into the next future.
And this focus on past and future, this ignoring the now, it also explains why the ego defends its position so fiercely, right? Even on trivial things.
Absolutely. Think about arguments. The need to be right. It seems silly. Maybe it's about politics. Maybe it's about who left the milk out. But the energy behind defending that position.
It feels like life or death sometimes.
Because for the ego, it is. The source links it directly to the fear of death, of annihilation.
How does that work? Being wrong about, say, a political opinion threatens my existence?
Because the ego is its positions. It's a structure built from fixed mental forms, beliefs, opinions, identities. If one of those core positions is proven wrong, the whole structure feels threatened. It feels like I am being annihilated.
That mind-based sense of self is under attack.
Precisely. And that irrational unconscious fear is why people fight wars over ideas, why relationships break down into these bitter battles over whose story is the right one. It's ego protecting itself.
It's staggering, really, the amount of suffering caused by clinging to mental positions. So, okay, if the ego dissolves when we disidentify, what about thinking we actually need, like planning or problem solving?
That's the key distinction. The mind is an amazing tool, brilliant for certain tasks.
But a terrible master.
Exactly. Functional thought, figuring out logistics, learning something new, solving a practical problem that's using the mind consciously when needed. Compulsive thought, egoic thought, is when the mind uses us. It's the background noise we can't turn off.
Freedom means using the tool when necessary and letting it rest otherwise.
Right. Resting in that background awareness, that stillness.
So the path out is this practice, watching the thinker.
Yes. Step one is just listening to that voice in your head. But, and this is crucial, listening impartially, without judgment.
Because judging is just more thinking, right? The same voice sneaking in the back door.
Exactly. You just notice it. Ah, there's the voice.
Yeah.
And here I am listening to it, like listening to traffic noise. It's just happening.
And when you do that, when you create that separation between the awareness and the thought,
Something else arises, that sense of, I am. It's not a thought. It's a feeling, a presence. It comes from beyond the mind.
and the thought itself loses power.
It does, because you're not feeding it anymore with your identification. You're not believing it automatically.
Yeah.
It often just subsides, and you notice a gap,
A gap in the stream of thinking.
even a tiny one. 2 seconds of silence. That gap is incredibly significant.
That's where the light gets in, so to speak.
Beautifully put. That's the light of consciousness. The single most important step is learning to disidentify. Every gap you create weakens the hold of the compulsive mind and strengthens your awareness
And over time, those gaps get longer, more frequent.
until presence becomes your underlying state, not just fleeting moments.
And if we had to define enlightenment really simply based on this,
The Buddha's definition is probably still the most practical, if negative, the end of suffering.
why negative?
Because it stops the mind from turning enlightenment into some grand superhuman goal off in the future. It's not about gaining something amazing, it's about stopping something. Stopping the inner resistance to what is.
The suffering generated by the mind.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. So we understand the ego feeds on thought and identification. Now let's look at its habitat. Psychological time, and how that creates accumulated pain. First, maybe clarify the difference between useful time and this psychological time.
Right. There's clock time. We need that. Learning from the past, history, science, remembering where you put your keys, planning for the future, setting goals, scheduling appointments, paying bills. Totally necessary and functional.
Even an enlightened person uses clock time.
Of course, but psychological time.
Right.
That's a different beast altogether.
How so?
The source calls it a mental disease. It's when you live mentally in the past, dominated by guilt, resentment, regret, or you live mentally in the future, constantly striving, seeking fulfillment there, making the present just an obstacle.
Just a means to an end.
Yeah, you're never actually here. Your attention, your energy is always somewhere else.
And the examples of this playing out collectively, they're pretty stark in the sources.
Terrifyingly so. Think about ideologies promising a future paradise. Communism, for instance. The idea was a future heaven on earth.
But the reality,
The reality was justifying horrific means for that future end. Estimates suggest maybe 50 million people killed in the name of creating that utopia. It resulted in a present hell. That's the danger of psychological time when it infects collective movements. The now is sacrificed for a future that exists only as a thought.
and on the individual level, this dwelling in psychological time creates drama.
Yeah, the mind unconsciously loves problems. It sounds weird, but problems give the ego a sense of identity. I'm the one struggling against this injustice, or I'm the victim of this difficult situation.
So the problem becomes part of who you think you are.
Exactly. And drama is what happens when you're dwelling on a situation, mentally complaining, worrying, resenting, but you have no real intention or ability to take effective action right now.
You're just spinning your wheels mentally.
You're lost in the life situation, the story, and you've lost touch with life itself, with being.
And all that mental dwelling, that psychological time, it accumulates emotionally, doesn't it?
Right.
Leading to the pain body.
That's the direct link. Every time you experience emotional pain, anger, sadness, fear, and you don't fully face it, don't allow it in the moment because of resistance.
You push down.
You resist it, yeah. And it doesn't just disappear. It leaves an energetic residue. This residue merges with old, unresolved pain from your past. And it lodges itself in your mind and even in your body's energy field.
Creating this negative energy field.
That's what the source calls it, the emotional pain body, like a semi-autonomous entity made of old pain.
Wow. It sounds like a parasite living in your consciousness.
That's a pretty good analogy, actually. And like a parasite, it wants to survive.
Yeah.
It has two states, dormant maybe 90% of the time for many people.
Just sleeping in the background.
Yeah, or active. And in really unhappy people, it can be active almost constantly, always looking for more negativity.
What wakes it up? What triggers it?
Oh, anything really that resonates with the frequency of old pain. Could be a stressful event, sure. But it could also be a completely innocent remark from someone that touches on an old wound. Or even just a negative thought pattern starting up again.
And once it's active, how does it feed itself? How does it survive?
It needs energy. And its food is more pain, more negative emotion.
So it provokes situations.
Unconsciously, yes.
Yeah.
It needs you to identify with it,
Hmm.
to become the pain. When the pain body takes over, your thoughts become negative, your interactions become reactive. You might pick fights, feel sorry for yourself, create drama.
All to generate the negative energy it feeds on. Anger, resentment, self-pity.
Exactly. Pain can only feed on pain. It cannot feed on joy or peace or presence. Those are like poison to it.
So you get trapped in this cycle where the pain body takes over, makes you miserable and reactive, which creates more painful situations, which feeds the pain body more.
It's a vicious cycle, collective insanity, really. But here's the important thing. The pain body, despite how powerful it feels, is ultimately insubstantial. It's a shadow.
And what's it afraid of?
It's terrified of one thing, the light of your consciousness, your presence. Its survival depends on you not looking at it, on you staying identified with it, lost in the drama.
If you don't face it, feel it, you're doomed to relive it.
Again and again, yeah.
Okay, so how do we face it? How do we bring consciousness to it? Is it different from just, suppressing emotions or toughing it out?
Oh, completely different. Suppression is the ego trying to push it away, denying it, which just makes it stronger underground. Facing it, or what the Source calls transmutation, is the opposite.
Transmutation, like alchemy.
Exactly like alchemy. Turning lead into gold. Turning suffering into consciousness. You don't resist the feeling. You allow it. You feel its energy directly in your body.
But you don't identify with it.
That's the key. You feel the anger, the sadness, the fear as pure energy inside you. But, I am the awareness that is feeling this. I am not the feeling itself.
So sustained conscious attention, just holding it in awareness.
Yes. Without letting the mind jump in and create a story around it. No blaming, no self-pity, no mental commentary. Just feeling the raw energy.
And what happens then?
When you bring that presence to it, you cut the link between the pain body and your thought processes. The pain body can't generate negative thoughts anymore, so it can't feed itself. The energy is still there, but it's just energy, intensity.
And that energy gets transformed.
It becomes fuel for the flame of your consciousness. Your presence actually gets stronger by metabolizing that energy. The inner split between you and the pain heals.
That sounds incredibly powerful, but I imagine the resistance to doing that must be huge. People don't want to feel pain.
The resistance is immense, especially if someone has built their entire identity around being unhappy, around being a victim.
The unhappy self.
Right. If I am a sufferer is your core identity, then letting go of the pain body feels like dying. There's a deep, unconscious fear of losing that familiar, miserable identity and stepping into the unknown freedom of peace.
The known hell versus the unknown heaven.
The mind often prefers the known hell, sadly, until the suffering becomes truly unbearable.
Okay, so breaking identification with thought, transmuting the pain body. The next step seems to be about deepening that state of presence. Let's go to part 3. The portals to the unmanifested. And this starts with something that seems like a contradiction, using the body, the physical form, which is temporary, as a path to the timeless.
Yeah, it seems paradoxical, doesn't it? How can this impermanent form lead to being?
Oh, right.
The key is realizing the visible body, the one we see and touch, is just the outer shell. The path is the outer form, is the inner body.
The inner body. What is that exactly? How do you feel it?
It's not felt as muscle and bone. It's felt as aliveness, as the invisible, vibrant energy field that animates the form. It's the feeling of life inside your hands, your feet, your chest, that subtle vibrancy.
So inhabiting the body means shifting attention from the outer appearance to this inner aliveness.
Precisely. Feeling that life within and knowing that is closer to who you are than the outer shell.
Now, is this inner body the same as things like chi or prana, life force energy? People might be familiar with those terms.
They're definitely related, pointing in the same direction, but maybe slightly different levels. Chi, or life force, is often described as the flowing energy itself, like the river. The inner body is your direct, felt experience of that energy field within you.
Okay. And the unmanifested.
The unmanifested is the source, the ultimate origin of that river.
Yeah.
Pure stillness, pure being beyond all form and energy. So feeling the inner body is like feeling the river. And if you follow that feeling deep enough, it leads you back to the stillness of the source.
Makes sense. And focusing on this inner body has practical benefits too, right? Not just spiritual ones.
Huge benefits. First, it anchors you completely in the now. You can't feel your inner body yesterday or tomorrow. You can only feel it now. It's an instant portal to presence.
And the source mentioned something about aging.
Yes, this is fascinating. By identifying more with the timeless inner body, the energy field, rather than just the outer physical form, you apparently slow down the aging process significantly.
How?
Because psychological time, the burden of past regrets and future anxieties, creates stress. And stress impairs the body's cells, their ability to regenerate and heal. When you live more in the inner body, in presence, you reduce that time-bound stress, allowing the body's natural intelligence to function better. The structure becomes less dense, more alive.
Interesting. Okay, so the inner body is one major portal. What other ways does the source suggest we can access this deeper reality, the unmanifested?
Well, one we all access unconsciously is dreamless sleep.
Right, we go there every night.
We merge back into the source during deep, dreamless sleep. That's where we draw the vital energy we need to function. But because it's unconscious, we usually wake up, and the mind immediately starts consuming that energy with thoughts and worries.
So the goal is to make that connection conscious.
Exactly, to bring presence even into that state, or at least to consciously connect to the source while awake.
What about portals we can access consciously right now? The source mentions silence and space.
Yes, these are like the external reflections of inner stillness. Silence isn't just the absence of noise, it's the presence of the unmanifested within the world of sound.
How do you mean?
Think about it. Every sound is born out of silence, exists for a moment, and dies back into silence. Silence allows the sound to be, it's the background canvas.
So paying attention to the silence between sounds or underneath them.
Immediately creates inner stillness. It draws your awareness away from mental chatter and into the present moment, into that unmanifested dimension.
And space is similar.
Very similar. Two sides of the same coin. Stillness. If you're in a room, instead of focusing only on the objects, the furniture, the walls become aware of the space itself, the emptiness in which the objects exist.
Paying attention to no thing.
Exactly. Space is no thing, and yet it allows everything to be. It's the external counterpart to inner space, inner stillness. When we only identify with form, with objects, we ignore the space, and that creates a sense of confinement, of fear.
Becoming aware of space, both inner and outer, brings freedom.
A sense of vastness, yeah.
This way of looking at things also helps clarify some potentially loaded terms, like God and being. The source advises caution with the word God, right?
Yeah, mainly because it's become so loaded with mental images and concepts, often a male figure, external to us. It becomes a mental idol, a closed concept that can actually block direct experience.
So being is preferred.
It's suggested as potentially more helpful because it's an open concept. You can't really form a mental image of being. It forces your attention inwards towards the experience of existence itself.
And where do we find this being?
It's not somewhere else. It's your own essence. It's immediately accessible right now as the simple, undeniable feeling of your own presence. That sense of I am. Before you add anything to it, like I am tired or I am happy, just I am.
That fundamental awareness.
That's being.
And realizing this helps us see through the illusion of external reality.
In a way, yes.
Yeah.
The source suggests that what we perceive as external space and time are actually how we experience the two fundamental attributes of the unmanifested, of God, if you like.
Yeah.
Infinity and eternity.
So space is like fragmented infinity, and time is like fragmented eternity.
That's the idea. Perceived through the limited lens of the human mind and senses. And the inner equivalent of time, the way we experience eternity directly, is presence. Awareness of the eternal now.
The whole manifested world needs the unmanifested to exist, and we, as conscious humans, are here to allow the universe to know itself through us.
That's the deeper purpose suggested, to bring consciousness into the world of form.
Okay, so let's bring this down to earth. Part 4. Relationships, cycles, and surrender. This feels like where the rubber really meets the road. Relationships as a spiritual practice.
Definitely, because relationships are often where our unconscious patterns, our pain bodies, get triggered most intensely.
The source is pretty critical of what passes for love, usually, isn't it? Confusing it with ego, attachment, addiction.
Yeah, it points out that in the dualistic mind, pleasure inevitably flips into pain. So ordinary love often starts as intense pleasure meeting needs, feeling complete, but because it's based on egoic need and attachment, it flips into pain when those needs aren't met.
The love-hate cycle.
Exactly. You love the person when they fulfill your ego's demands, and you hate them or feel intense negativity when they inevitably fail to be the constant source of fulfillment the ego wants. It's an addictive clinging.
And this seeking wholeness in another person comes from our own sense of lack.
Both physically and psychologically. Physically, male-female polarity seeking completion. Psychologically, the ego inherently feels incomplete, lacking. It tries to use the partner to fill that hole.
Sexual union offers a glimpse of that wholeness, maybe.
A fleeting, powerful glimpse, yeah. That's why it's so compelling. But the ego quickly rushes back in, trying to possess, control, or extract something from the experience or the partner.
So the partner becomes a kind of screen onto which we project our needs and pain.
Often, yes. The ego demands the partner cover up its inner lack. When they can't, because no one can, the old pain surfaces, the pain body gets activated, and it attacks the partner, trying to force them back into the role of savior or fixer.
Which leads to the Source's really radical claim about relationships. They're not here to make us happy.
Fundamentally, no. They are here to make us conscious.
Conscious how?
They act as a spiritual practice, a sadhana, because they reliably bring up our deepest unconscious stuff. The anger, the jealousy, the neediness, the fear of abandonment, the need to be right, all that madness.
So when that stuff comes up in a relationship, it's not a sign the relationship is wrong.
Not necessarily. It's a sign that what was hidden in the unconscious is being brought into the light. It's painful, yes, but it's an incredible opportunity for healing, for salvation, if you approach it consciously.
Okay, so how do you approach it consciously? Let's say your partner says something, and bang, you feel that wave of anger or defensiveness rise up. What do you do?
The action is primarily internal. It's about holding the knowing. You feel the anger surge, the impulse to attack or defend, but you don't act it out unconsciously. And you don't suppress it either. You recognize it. Ah, anger is here. Or there's the pain body wanting to react. You feel the energy in your body, but you hold on to the knowing. I am the awareness witnessing this feeling. This feeling is not me.
You create space around it.
Exactly. You create a still, aware space. And that presence, that non-reactive awareness, is what allows the energy to transmute. It stops the cycle. It brings peace into the situation, even if the other person's still unconscious.
You can't change them, but you can change your own state and hold that space.
That's all you can ever do. And that space is the catalyst for transformation, potentially for both people eventually.
This sounds very much related to the concept of surrender.
It is. They're deeply connected.
Yeah.
Because all the suffering in relationships, in life generally, comes from resistance, from arguing with what is.
The ego creates suffering through resistance. Why does the mind do that? It seems counterintuitive.
The mind has this weird delusional belief that negativity works, that complaining or being unhappy or making someone feel guilty will somehow buy it what it wants.
But it just reinforces the ego and blocks real change.
Completely. Negativity strengthens the ego and actually prevents positive outcomes. True change comes from a different place.
Which is surrender. But let's define that carefully. It's not just giving up, is it? Not resignation.
No, that's a common misunderstanding. Resignation is like, okay, I'm stuck in this horrible situation. There's nothing I can do. I give up. It's rooted in despair, still negative. Surrender is different. Surrender is a profound inner acceptance of the present moment, exactly as it is, without labeling it mentally as good or bad. It's saying yes to the isness of this moment internally. It's not about liking the situation. It's about stopping the inner war against the situation.
So using your example earlier, stuck in the mud, resignation is staying there miserably. Surrender is?
Surrender is acknowledging fully and without complaint, okay, I'm in the mud right now. This is the reality. You stop fighting it mentally. You accept the suchness of the moment.
Doesn't that just mean you stay stuck?
Paradoxically, no. Once you stop wasting energy on inner resistance, the complaining, the blaming, the wishing it were different, that energy is freed up, you become calm and clear. And from that state of acceptance, you can perceive what action, if any, is appropriate and possible now.
So acceptance allows for clear-sighted action.
Yes. Surrender is perfectly compatible with taking action. But the action comes from a place of peace, of alignment with being, not from frantic resistance or negativity.
Like the Source mentions, doing one thing at a time with full attention, like the lilies of the field.
Exactly. Action that flows from surrendered presence is incredibly powerful and effective, precisely because it's not fueled by egoic striving or drama. It's aligned with the intelligence of life itself.
And living in that state of acceptance, that's the end of drama.
It has to be. Drama requires conflict. Conflict requires identifying with a mental position, I'm right, you are wrong, and reacting against the other or the situation. A fully surrendered conscious person doesn't engage in that.
There's no inner resistance, so there's nothing to project outwards as conflict.
The clash stops. A clash between what your mind demands should be happening and what is happening. That's peace.
Finally, let's zoom out a bit. We need to acknowledge the nature of this manifested world we live in. impermanence, and cycles.
Crucial point. The Buddha's core teaching, anicca, impermanence. Everything in the world of form arises, stays for a while, and decays. Everything is subject to cycles.
Up cycles and down cycles, success and failure, growth and dissolution.
Right, and the mind labels these. Up is good, down is bad. But that's just a judgment.
The source points out that endless growth would be monstrous, right? Like cancer.
Exactly. Dissolution, the down cycle, the falling apart is actually essential, especially for spiritual realization.
How so?
Because it's often in times of deep loss of success, health, relationships, possessions, that we're forced to let go of our identification with those temporary forms. The universe kind of shakes us out of our attachment to the impermanent.
It forces us to find the deeper reality, the being underneath the forms.
If we allow it to. If we surrender to the dissolution instead of just resisting it bitterly.
And this ties back to the distinction between life and life situation.
Yes. Life with a capital L, your essential being, is already whole, complete, perfect, timeless. Your life situation, your circumstances, experiences, health, wealth, that's all in the realm of time, subject to cycles and impermanence.
The mistake is trying to find our sense of life, our being, through the life situation.
Right. Using external achievements or conditions as a substitute for the feeling of aliveness, of being within. That guarantees suffering because the life situation will inevitably change.
And realizing all this, it's not just a personal journey, is it? The source suggests this is part of a much bigger shift.
A huge collective transformation, yeah. It's presented as a quantum leap in consciousness for humanity. We're at a point where breaking these old mind patterns, the egoic consciousness that has caused so much suffering, destruction, it's become necessary for our survival as a species.
The pressure is building.
The pressure of suffering is forcing an awakening. It's like the divine game the source mentions, the Lila. Consciousness loses itself in form, gets identified.
Gets lost in the dream.
Until the suffering becomes so intense, it forces consciousness to wake up, to disidentify from the dream, from the form. Like the prodigal son returning home, but now with a death gained from the experience of being lost.
And this human awakening has cosmic implications.
Apparently so. References like St. Paul talking about creation groaning, or the Buddhist idea that even trees will eventually become enlightened, they suggest that the entire universe is somehow waiting for and dependent upon human consciousness to shift.
Our awakening helps awaken the world around us.
When humans achieve presence, that peace radiates out and is reflected in nature, in the animal kingdom. It's a profound responsibility in a way.
That's the revelation of a new earth, a different reality emerging through us. But the key always is now, not trying to build a perfect future world through egoic effort.
Exactly. True salvation isn't in the future. It's awakening out of identification with form right now, realizing you're already complete. You don't get there by achieving something later. You get there by realizing you are already there, beneath the mental noise.
And what we then do in the world arises from that state of being.
Who you are, the peace, the presence you embody, is always a more powerful force for transformation than anything you say or do externally. You teach peace by being peace.
Which brings me back to that simple practical instruction from Huxley's Island that you mentioned, the Islander's Reminder.
Yeah, just that constant gentle nudge. Attention, here and now. Attention, here and now. That's the practice, continuously anchoring yourself in the present. That's the escape hatch from the maze of the mind. That's where uncaused joy is found.
Okay, so as a final thought for everyone listening, something to maybe mull over after this deep dive, our sources echo this powerful principle found in many traditions: nothing real can be threatened.
Nothing real can be threatened, meaning your essential being, your core consciousness, is indestructible, timeless. Only forms, illusions can be threatened.
So the provocation is this. If you really take that principle on board today, apply it seriously. How does that change how you see every situation you currently label a problem or a disaster?
How much weight does the fear of loss of possessions, status, approval, even the body? How much does that fear dictate your choices and reactions right now? What would shift if you knew, truly knew, that your essential self cannot be harmed?
Something profound to consider. The universe is waiting for you to realize how important you are right here, right now. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.